Hi everyone, welcome to the Health Tip this week. This week we're going to be talking about toxins in your two brains. What do we mean by that? So there's a lot of toxins in our environment, in our foods, in what's around us, and it's having a really big negative impact on people's health outcomes. Back in the old days with chiropractors doing their work, just one or two adjustments and there was all these miracles happening. But today there's so much chemical load into our system, we're actually calling it chemical subluxations, that it's actually limiting people's ability to actually self-heal and self-regulate. Because chiropractic, the principle has always been correct, and it's a law, that the body is actually self-healing, self-regulating, if the nervous system is working properly and the body can perceive itself and its environment properly. However, with this artificial onslaught of these extra sort of chemicals and toxins and things in our environment is actually changing the health of our cells and the ability of the body to do what it's supposed to do. So I'm just going to highlight a few things here just to give you an idea, and I'll actually zoom in on the poster in a second to kind of give you a better idea. But we're going to be looking at different things. So Dr. Pompa, who's a chiropractor in the States, who set up a thing for us to help people detoxify their body properly, and we'll be having that in our office shortly. The idea is that the cells of your body need to be healthy in order for you to be healthy. So you actually have to heal the cell in order for you to get well. So as I've mentioned in some of my other health tips, one of the biggest things that they're finding that has the most detrimental effect on our health in general is what we call chronic, low-grade, or subclinical inflammation. So we're not talking about, you hurt your elbow and it gets inflamed and swollen. We're talking about an inflammation that's going on the inside of the body all the time at a sort of low-grade level that's actually destroying our health and pushing towards all the different diseases. I could name, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, even osteoporosis, and all of those diseases in general usually have an underlying inflammation problem with it. So what is actually causing inflammation? And we have to look at that, and we have to look at what's actually can inflame the membrane of the cell. So we're going to zoom in on the poster here, and I'm going to point out a few things. Okay, so we're looking at what we call the neurotoxic pathways, and these are different things. So this is supposed to represent a cell in your body. So the membrane of the cell, which is a fatty layer, so that's why I keep telling people how important fat is, getting the proper fats in your diet, and cholesterol and everything else, because the membrane itself is basically a big fatty bilayer, we call it. So what kind of things can actually cause inflammation of the membrane itself of the cells? So these are different toxins that will actually drive this inflammation. So some of those toxins can be this. So heavy metals are very, very common. So we have environmental toxins like mercury amalgam fillings, lead and mercury in utero from the mother to the infant. Because what happens is we kind of grew up in the lead generation, so we had lead in our gasoline, lead in our paints, that kind of thing. So the mothers of that time, the lead would go into the blood, but within a certain period of time, 40, 60, 90 days, it would kind of go out of the blood and it actually settle into the bones or the deeper tissues. But when you have a pregnancy, what happens is there's a lot of metabolism going on, and there's turnover in the bones, and that lead could actually come back out into the system and make its way into the placenta and into the baby. So a lot of people that are our age, or younger, in the let's say 20s to 40 range right now, a lot of their lead poisoning came from their mother's lead poisoning. So these are different things that can actually affect the membrane, and the real damage with all these toxins is not only do they affect the membrane here, but they can also come into the cell and affect changes in the gene expression. So you can actually have turning on genes, we'll call them bad genes that meaning genes that will cause expressions of things that we don't like tumor cells, cancerous changes, diabetic changes, that kind of stuff. And then inside the cell there's these little pink things called mitochondria, and these toxins will actually affect the membrane of the mitochondria themselves too. And I'll get into that in another workshop in the future where we're going to be talking about energy levels. So these mitochondria are massively important for how much energy your cell has to detoxify itself and just to produce its normal functions. So other types of toxins that can affect this, we call them biotoxins. So these can be things like mold, Lyme, root canals, and cavitations. So a lot of diseases in the body can actually be present because of problems in the mouth. So root canals, fillings, cavitations. What happens is there's these anaerobic bacteria that harbor themselves in your teeth and under the gum line and in little pockets in the teeth, and they cause a low-grade constant immune system attack on that. It actually drains your immune system. And so many people that have cancers and things like that are very often, if they clear this out, they can have a better outcome with their cancer care and cancer therapy. And Lyme is a really tricky one. Lyme disease, what it does is it actually, those bacteria, they actually like to hang out near mercury where your immune system doesn't want to go. So it kind of hides out near these heavy metals where your immune system doesn't like attacking or cleaning out. And they even create something called a biofilm, which is this like layer of yuck that it kind of hides the bacteria under there, and your immune system can't even see them to go attack them. And mold is a big one too. A lot of people don't know this, but if you have more than 50 or 60% humidity in your house, you probably have a mold problem. And we're not just talking about like the mold that you can see. A lot of times it's hidden mold or behind walls or behind, the ceiling leaks, or anytime you've had a leak or anything like that in the house, you've pretty much got a mold problem. And different people with different susceptibilities will be much more reactive to that. So the thing is, this inflammation of the cells, it can affect two major parts of your body, which we actually call the two brains. So the brain in your head is the one most people recognize, but I've mentioned this before. There's something called the microbiome, which are all the bacteria inside the intestine. And just the cell of the intestines, it's a huge link between these two things. So when there's inflammation of cells in the intestines, things that can be related to things like irritable bowel syndrome, food allergies, Crohn's disease, autoimmune diseases. That's a big one too. The leaky gut causing autoimmune. Weight gain is a big problem. Candida and other issues and other pathogens like tapeworms and things like that. Depression is a big one. There's a big link between inflammation, your bowels and your brain, and with depression, and also anxiety as well. So when there's inflammation of the cells affecting your brain, usually those toxins will actually go in deeper into the brain tissues, affecting the things that actually control generally your body health, like your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland, which is the master control of all your hormones. So when that gets disrupted because of this inflammation, we're going to get things like brain fog, trouble sleeping, decreased libido, increased pain, weight loss resistance, which is a really big problem these days, trouble adapting to stress and fatigue. How many people are exercising, eating right, and everything else, but they're still having difficulty losing weight, even though they think they're doing the right things? It's often because there's toxins in the brain changing their hormones. So usually the weight problems are not eating too much or exercising too little or whatever. People are almost trying to do that as much. They're exercising all the time and they're trying to eat right. But if the hormones have been disrupted because of this, no matter what they do, if the hormones don't get corrected, they'll always have a weight problem. So definitely a big problem with a lot of consequences in our body, and obviously we're going to need some really high-powered solutions, and that's what's coming in the next month in the office here. You actually need to detoxify your body, but not just in the downstream areas like in your kidneys and your lymphatic system and your intestines. You actually need to get these toxins out of your brain. And there's been a breakthrough in that technology that we'll be sharing with you in the next weeks or so. But just know that there's help for all of these things, and we'll have it here in the office. So that's your health tip for this week. We look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Please share the video if it was helpful. Thank you.